Hey everybody, it's Professor Cruz again. I want to welcome you to week 7. This week we're going to be finishing our critical thinking application process that we've been working on for the previous 3 modules up into this one. I know it's all going pretty quickly here. That's the nature of our 12-week express course. Next week we're going to be actually taking our midterm, which I will be showing you at the end of this video. So hang through to the end. This is kind of a twofer for this week and next week. But then on the back side of that, I mean, we've got after the midterm, we have 4 weeks left, where we're basically going to be doing 2 modules a week to finish out. And then we're gonna, be done. So this is the midterm next week, but it's really like 3/4 term in the fact that more than half the class is already gone. Okay. So what I want to do is kind of talk about some things I've been seeing in the assignments to kind of continue to give you that feedback. And then we'll kick into the module and we'll look at this week's assignment. 2 things I'm noticing that are costing people a lot of points on their assignments that are unnecessary is one, we're still not using the proper APA citation for the textbook or for the in-text citations. And at this point, if you're still missing points on that, you're choosing to, okay? Because I'm telling you every week that this is something I'm going to deduct for, and you really need to use the materials that are, available to you in the course. We have an APA module, we have an embedded librarian. I'm a librarian. You can meet with a writing tutor, you can meet with a librarian. We can do these meetings online, but you have to do something to change what you're doing. Albert Einstein, once said jokingly that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And I feel like that's what some of us are doing our assignments. We're making the same mistakes over and over again and thinking at one point, I just won't mark you off for it. But you really need to pay attention to those things because I'm at the point now where we're this many assignments in that I'm just going to take all of those APA points, all 5 of them, until you guys figure it out, because this is something that we need to get done correctly. Okay. This is not just for this class. You're going to use this for many other classes. So please use this as an opportunity to get good on that. The second thing I see people doing is when I provide a document to download, people aren't downloading and using them. And what's happening is their formatting is off, and particularly they're not putting the required rubric in their assignment when it's been provided for them. All I have to do is download and use it. Every time you have something on that was formatting that was supposed to be on there and isn't, I'm going to mark off points. And every time you are missing the rubric, I'm going to mark off points. And as I've said since week 1, I take off more points each time I have to tell you this thing over and over again. Okay, so those are the 2 big things that I'm seeing is just people aren't doing anything different with their APA, and they're refusing to use the provided forms to help them with their assignment. Outside that, it's just utilizing the feedback in general. When I was grading the ACT utilitarian assignments, many people had not made the additions or corrections that I had suggested on the previous assignment. So not only did that cost you more points, but it affected the outcome of your answers. So many of you, I said, well, we're not really sure because you're missing a lot of stakeholders, or you didn't have the correct option. Some people picked an option that wasn't actually within the scope of the assignment. So this is why doing the feedback is very important. I'm not trying to bum you guys out. For the most part, when you guys turned them in, you did well, and some people did very well in the assignment. So please don't feel like, I'm lecturing down at you. But what I'm saying is, when a professor takes the time to point things out and say, fix this for the next assignment, it's because you need to fix them on the next assignment, and failure to do so is going to cost you. And those points start to add up, and I want everybody to do well in this course. So you want to make sure you use all the resources that are available and use the feedback that I provide for you. Now, as far as what I'm going to show you in this week's video, it's not going to be overly complicated for the assignment this week, because essentially we're at the end, and all we have to do now is kind of put it all together. And so this should be an easier one of the assignment, because you have 2 modules ago, we applied ACT utilitarianism. You guys last module are applying Kant's deontology, and you'll get feedback from that soon. And essentially the idea is, now that we have our two decisions, we need to pick the one that we want our decision maker to do. So let me switch over to the course here, and I'll walk you through that, okay? Let's share my screen real fast. Okay, so we're in module 7. As you guys noticed, there's no quiz that's due this week because really module 7 calls back to chapter 4, the critical thinking application process. This is just the end result of it. So there isn't a quiz this week, but there is an additional discussion board element to this assignment, which I'll explain. But if you look at the layout I have for you here, you're going to do your assignment. You want to go ahead and submit that assignment. Once you've submitted that assignment, you're just going to copy certain elements of it to a discussion post to share with your classmates. Since we don't have the benefit of being in class together, we want to see how we all did on this since we've been kind of working in our little silos. We want to see where we got similar, we got different from one another. So you'll post part of that. And then you're going to reply to a classmate like we've done before on discussion posts. And then you want to start preparing for your midterm because next week is our midterm exam. It's basically, you've got a week to do it. The exam will open at 12:01 Monday the 8th, and it will end at 11:59 p.m. On April 14th. So you'll have a whole week to do it. I've chosen to give you like a take-home style exam that you guys can work on for the week rather than lock you into the 2-hour timed tests that we've traditionally done with this. And the reason why is because I really want you guys to do your best with it. I know some people have been having some bumps on the application process. This thing essentially tests your knowledge of the application process with a different case study. So I want to make sure that you guys have plenty of time to do it, do well, and score to the best of your ability, okay? So as I have in the previous modules, I've provided a sample format for you, which we'll come back look at in a second. And then we have our Dropbox. And essentially we've got now the last 3 parts: the decision making, the evaluation, and the reflection. Okay. And so in the decision making, we are going to present our final decision in a bold sentence before the paragraph itself on its own line. Now, in the last 3 assignments, we've been asking, should Isaac do such and such? Now we want to say what he should do. Isaac should. See, now we're answering the question. So in my hypothetical, practice example, I've been using Bob, right? Bob's issue with his wife's cheating. And the whole time I've been asking, should Bob divorce his wife? Now I'm going to say what Bob should do. And in this case, I'm going to go with a Kantian option where I'm going to say Bob should ask his wife to go to marriage counseling with him. Okay. And so I would write that right out on that line in bold. And then I would write a whole paragraph that, basically clearly supports that decision from an ethical, logical perspective. I don't want to be, biased. I don't want to show partiality or anything like that. It's not about what I think or feel. It's about what's ethical and what's logical. Now, what I want you guys to do in this section is present, the decision and talk about the theory if you want. That helps you get there. But the idea here is not to talk about both theories. Don't talk about how, act utilitarianism and both agreed they shouldn't have. If they agreed, it was either coincidental or you had, which in a 1 out of 10 times, maybe they'll come together in the same decision, but usually you get different decisions. If they came together, it was coincidental or it was a mistake in the process. If you worked everything perfect and I didn't give you any feedback and you got the same answer, that's fine. But pick the theory that you liked best, at least, because I don't want you presenting this like, oh, the best option through both theories is this, because people do that every time. And it's really a misrepresentation of how these things work. If there's overlap, great, but it was never the intention. And so we don't want to present it that way, okay? And so once we describe why we have the decision, then we're gonna evaluate it. Okay, and this will look a little cleaner on the example, but essentially you need to come up with 3 objections that somebody could say against the decision that you made. So I'm going to say Bob should, ask his wife to go to counseling. What are 3 things that people who disagree with my decision could say to object it? Okay. And then in my counter argument, I'm going to give 3 to 4 sentences that ethically and logically explain my decision. I would like you to either use parts of your theory for that, or just use rational, ethical, logical reasoning to defend that. And I've got an example I'll show you in a little bit, okay? And then once you've done that 3 times, you've given 3 objections, you've given 3 counter arguments, then you write your reflection, about 150 words, but you're not reflecting on the case, you're reflecting on the process that you went through in these last few modules, whether you like it or not. Would you use it in real life? Did personal bias interfere? Basically tell us about what you learned about the critical thinking process throughout all of this. And then we've got our submission checklist. So make sure all these things are good before you turn it in. We're still missing a lot of things, like people love these U's and these contractions that I keep marking off every time. Get those out. This is formal academic writing. Make it sound good, okay? Now, once you've submitted that, that's the main part. That's the 40-point assignment. Instead of a quiz this week, there's an additional 10-point assignment where you are going to post your identification, so your 1 sentence, and then just your decision paragraph and your reflection paragraph to the discussion board by Friday night. Now, you got to remember, since it's a discussion thing, this is due Friday instead of Sunday, so you got to work a little quicker with it this week. But I think you should be able to do that just fine. But you're going to go on Friday night and you're going to post this where it has your identification, your decision paragraph, your reflection paragraph. And then, like as usual, before Sunday, you're going to go back and you're going to do a reply, 50-word minimum, to like one of your classmates. And I want you to, put some, care into that reply. I want you to comment on, their decision, whether you got the same one or not, if you use the theory they used or not. Actively engage them in a discussion other than just like, oh, you did great with the process. Because I'm not going to give full points to, just, lip service reply posts. I want this to be, some quality feedback to your classmate, okay? And so then once you have that posted and your reply done, you'll be done with the assignments for the week. So make sure, you're in the Dropbox by Friday. See, due April 5th. So make sure we're in the Dropbox by Friday. Make sure we're on the discussion board by Friday. And then make sure we get our reply post in by Sunday. And what you're going to want to do when you go to fill out the assignment, as usual, just come here and download your Word document. You see, and you got your title page, so just put your name there. And then all you have to do is write out yours. Now I'm telling you, please, guys, stop writing Bob. Every week somebody still has Bob in there. And it's like, if I take it out, then you won't put it there as the play, because I need the placeholder and you'll forget to put stuff there. But if I leave Bob in, people keep saying Bob. At this point, it looks really ridiculous if you keep saying Bob in your assignment, because we know there is no Bob. And it shows an extreme lack of attention to detail. So please pay attention to what you're doing. And remember that Bob is my guy that I've been using as an example. And this is here to show you as an example. Don't leave the ellipses, ... Take that out, write your sentence in there, okay? Then this is where your paragraph goes for the decision. And then you'll see list, the objection. Here's where you write the counter argument, objection, counter argument, objection, counter argument, and then your reflection. Pretty straightforward. Not a lot to cover, not really any content to talk about like I've done the last couple weeks. This is really, at this point, the kind of work is done of making, the decision, because we have act utilitarianism said this, Kant said this, we have 2 different answers. I like this answer. Boom. This is what Isaac should do. This is why he should do it in that paragraph. And then part of making a good argument is thinking what people would say against you, so you can prepare your counter arguments. So just think logically, what are 3 things that people could say to challenge my decision, and what would I say to theirs? Okay, now let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So, okay, so like I said, my decision is going to be that Bob should, ask his wife to go to marriage counseling with him. Somebody who objects to that and doesn't think that that is the correct ethical option could say that Bob should just file from divorce for his wife. In fact, many of us probably thought that when I first started saying it, well, I would divorce her, right? Well, so one objection could be, Bob should just file for divorce. And then my counter argument could be something like, while many would say Bob is justified in divorcing his wife, divorce is not a universal moral rule we would want everyone to follow every time, because we cannot live in a world where no one stays together. Furthermore, asking his wife to go to counseling shows that Bob is willing to see if there is any way to salvage his marriage to Mary. Ultimately, Bob cannot control if Mary is willing to go to counseling, and if they do go, the end result may still be divorce, but it is a step that he can take first that is universal and does not exploit anyone in the process. So you see, I kind of acknowledge that the other side, has a point. And then what I do is I fall back to my theory. 1, universality, then some logical stuff about the decision, and then show at the end universal and respect for persons. So it shows how I'm working through, the ideas of the theory in support of my decision. And then I just do that 2 more times. So another objection might be something like, well, Bob should just, should try separating from his wife first. And I might say, while that is something he could do, the separation is a way of kind of like, abandoning the marriage and being in limbo. And so it's not really working on it. It's not really breaking it. So again, that's not super universal, to just walk away and kind of leave things unaddressed. And it's not, actively working towards resolution the way in which, going to, counseling would be, trying to fix the problem. People might say, oh, well, he could just cheat back on his wife. Yes, but as a deontologist, he couldn't do that, because just because she's breaking her end of the marriage contract doesn't mean he now gets to cheat back on her. I mean, there's a better way to resolve that logically. You see what I'm saying? We can't live in a world where people just go around revenge cheating on each other. It's going to exploit, Bob's own, duty to fidelity within the marriage. So there's a lot of things that you could say. Now, I know I'm just kind of spitballing here, but the idea is I want you guys to kind of figure this out without having too much of my stuff to just copy on your own, because I want it to be authentic to like what you would say to defend your decision. Okay. So, I'm just thinking about what would somebody who heard all this say against my decision if they didn't agree with it, and then what would I say? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Now I want to show you some stuff. So that's basically this week. Pretty straightforward, right? Do your assignment, get it to the Dropbox by Friday. Okay. Put your post up by Friday as well. These are separate grades. If you forget to do the discussion post, you're just out the 10 points, not the whole 40. But I would recommend getting those 10 points because they'll be easy, and then you're done for the week. Now, this video is doubling up for next week as well too, because there's not really a whole reason to make a whole new video for next week. So I just want to spend the next few minutes talking about the midterm exam, because it starts at the end of this week. So when you go to module 8, we have the midterm exam. The midterm exam is designed to test one more time, your steps of the critical thinking application process. If you haven't realized by now, that's a major part of this course. The book was actually written around that process. Maness and Monroe created this application process as a way for us to teach our students how to think through logical decision making. That's why we call the class Applied Ethics, because we are looking to apply ethical decisions and not just talk about it in the theoretical. So before we move on to like the social issues and all that other stuff in the class, we're going to test you one more time on this. You've had my guidance throughout the way. I've made you these videos. I've given you these feedbacks. Now it's time to try this on your own. So when you go to module 8, you're going to notice you can't really access these things, but you can see them. And that's because it's an active exam period that starts 12:01 a.m. Monday. So basically Sunday night, however you look at it, and then closes the next week. So you can't see this stuff until the exam week opens, because I don't want anybody getting a head start because it's an exam. Essentially, there's a case here called Cancel Culture Cometh. You're going to read that case and you're going to apply the steps of the critical thinking application process to that case. How are you going to apply them? There's a document here that I have provided for you that you will download. You will open into a MS Word document only. If you don't have Word, find a computer that lets you have Word. You guys all have access to Office 365 in your Titan Hub. You need to use it because it's got to go through Turnitin. It's got to go through Turnitin correctly. And it's got to be formatted correctly. Otherwise, it's going to look like a jumble. Okay. But what I will say is there's 8 questions. It's a total of 100 points. Each question is a part of the critical thinking application process. So you'll be asked in question 1 to identify the central ethical issue of the case that's been provided. Then you're going to talk about 3 areas of research. Then you're going to list 4 stakeholders. I'm only going to make you do 4 stakeholders or stakeholder groups, just to keep it simple. But you're going to list 4 stakeholders and briefly explain why these people are stakeholders. Then you're going to list 4 options that your decision maker can take. Okay, those are your first 5 questions. Then you're going to apply act utilitarianism to get a decision, and I provided the chart for you. Then you're going to apply consteantology and get a decision. Then you're going to pick a final decision and justify it in a short 5 to 7 sentence paragraph. And then you're going to, in the final question, present 3 objections and 3 counter arguments. So basically everything we've done except the reflection piece for these last 4 assignments, including this one we're doing this week, are going to be tested. You'll have the document. All you have to do is download it and fill it in. You're going to use this case. Don't use any other case. You're going to read over it. Read over as many times as you need to, and then fill it out. You will have the entire week to do it, but you have to do it on your own. You can't ask me for content help. You can't ask a friend, a family member, a tutor, a teacher. You can't use generative AI. You can't use any other, outside websites that help students, study for their exams. This is on you. But what you can use any notes that you've taken. You can use the online textbook that's built into our course. You can use the feedback that I've given you on your previous assignments. You can use the videos I've created and any other resources that are in the class itself. Essentially, this is an open book, open notes test that you have a whole week to do. So take your time, do it right, get it done right. There are absolutely no extensions on this because you have a whole week to do it. If you submit it 1 minute late, it's late and it's going to get a 0. I know that seems hardcore, but this is a test and we need to treat it the same as a test. If you sleep in through your exam, that's a 0, right? So you got to make sure you get this in on time. You'll see when the exam period opens, the Dropbox will open up here. You'll see it'll become visible. It's just not visible right now. And then when the exam period closes, the Dropbox will go away. You get it into the Dropbox, I'll grade it, and then we'll move on with our lives. It's worth 100 points. I don't want you to stress out over it. There's also 100 points extra credit in the course. So if you don't do super well in the midterm, you still have the ability to, compensate with extra credit. The one thing, though, that is important for you to understand, and this is a department rule, if you do not submit the midterm, I'm going to drop you from the course for non-participation. You don't get to just take a 0 on the midterm exam and think, oh, I'll make it up with extra credit and move on with my life. If you do not take the midterm, you will be dropped from the course. So please Do your best, fill it in the best you can. I would rather you do something than nothing. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect, but turn it in, get some points, and then we'll move on. I think the class gets easier from here. Once we get through this midterm, then it's just one-off assignments that don't interrelate like all these have. And then the final exam, which is a 50 question multiple choice, fill in the blank, etc. kind of thing, open book. So once you get through this, it's kind of smooth sailing from there. I will put a email out on Sunday morning next week that talks about the midterm, and then once it's open, you guys are on your own to take it, okay? You can ask me questions about any procedural issues or anything like that, but I won't be answering any content questions during the open exam period because everybody will be testing. And you'll see in the Dropbox, you only get one submission to do it right. Once you submit the assignment, that test has been submitted and it's open to be graded. You do not get a second submission. The idea behind that is I don't want you submitting it on Tuesday, finding out something better that you did wrong, a couple days later and going back and redoing it. That's not how tests work. Once the test is submitted, it's submitted. So I want you to take your time. I want you to triple check your work. And once you put it in the Dropbox, that's it. I'm going to grade that one. I don't care if you do a perfect submission after 2 days later, I'm not going to grade it. It's the one that you put in. It will generate a turn it in report, but since this is an exam, only I will see your turn it in score. So be honest. Do not, do anything that's going to compromise your academic integrity and put you in an awkward situation where I have to give you a 0 on the test and put you over to the academic review board. Let's just be honest. Let's get it done. Let's try to have a little fun with it as much as you can in the academic sense, and then we'll move on to the last part of the course. Okay. So I know it's a lot that kind of went over the last 2 days. If you have any questions about this week's assignment or the upcoming exam, please feel free to email me. I'm always here to ask. It's kind of weird that this is a fully online class, and it's also been the quietest class that I've had with emails. Please don't feel like you're bothering me by reaching out. That's what I'm here for. But outside that, I want you guys to have a great week, a successful week, productive week in this and all your classes, and then get ready for that midterm next week. And then I think we're just rolling down the hill to the final exam after that. Okay, so if you need anything, reach out. If not, I'll see you guys next time.